the first week in July, and I am a part of this really awesome group called Bulletproof Human Performance. One of my closest friends, great guy, great leader, great mentor, Carson Case, go check him out. He has this group, Cobra Group, inside of his business, Bulletproof Human Performance. Every 6 months, we do a standards test. What that does is help us keep track of our fitness and everything that we're going through, all the workouts we're doing, where are we at, what are we doing? Send videos that inspire us, doing all different stuff, specific reading. It's an incredible group, but this week is the standards test week. But I'm adding some components to this. I did my standards test for fitness this morning. I'm gonna go through a standards test mentally, spiritually, creatively, and financially. So I'm gonna go through and just analyze everything I have, do last 6 and next 6, plan for the next 6, and I'm gonna take y'all through this with me. You're in this with me. This is a part of me building the life I've always dreamed of living. So I'm gonna take you in this with me. We're gonna do this thing together. It's gonna be really good. First, I gotta hop in the shower. Standards. What does that look like? What is that for me? The standards test for physically was a mile run, max pace. In 2 minutes, how many push-ups can you do? How many air squats can you do? Pull-ups, just like 1 set, how many can you do? Burpees, 2 minutes. There's 1 or 2 other things. The spiritual side is gonna be interesting because I'm gonna check myself on the side of how am I spiritually, how am I mentally as well. These two will kind of reflect each other and come together, so that's why I'm doing them a little bit at the same time. It's not just about how I'm doing though, or how I've done. It's very much about like, God, this is what I'm expectant for. My word for this year was courage. I want to be courageous. When you look at scripture, there's so many references to courageous, be courageous, God helping you be more courageous, doing all those things. And so I've studied what builds courage. And what builds courage is realizing the weakness of fear. I think you begin to realize the more you go at fear, the smaller fear feels. And so for me, that's been my thing this year, is anything that scares me, I'm running after it, I'm trying it, I'm going for it. So that way, the courage builds within me. I see God doing things through me. I see what God's already done, so why would he not move in me now? I'm really expectant to kind of like really dig into that for about an hour or so, where I'm gonna look at, hey, how have I handled some things? How am I doing in, the daily habits of things like prayer, things like reading, journaling, stuff like that? What can I take the next step in? I have a little strategy planned out, so I'm gonna show you kind of how I'm doing that and where I'm going into it. It's the next day. Last night was really good. I got really clear on the spiritual side and everything that involved. The mental side was really good too. And it was interesting because I came in with a plan and I really feel like it just grew over time to where I actually entered into a study of like the way of Jesus and intertwined a lot of this rhythm and this kind of breakdown, this reflection into the ways that Jesus approached life and his practices and the things that he did, picking apart different things that he said and tying it together into how can I reflect and learn more about myself. And what it really led me to is I learned a lot about where I'm at, but I also learned a lot about what's holding me back. At the beginning, the beginning approach was kind of that Luke 4 approach of Jesus going into the wilderness, that time of before he went out into ministry, he took time to fast and be with God and be alone. And so this was that time for me to step back, get away, be alone, get with God, approach the temptations that have gotten in the way of maybe some things I wanted to do or some things that could potentially be holding me back, and just approach that where it's at. And even breaking that down from a spiritual sense, a mental sense, a financial sense, a creative sense. I've got it all written out like this. I don't know if you can really see or not. Let me see if it'll focus in. So it's a pretty long document, and I'll read you out some of it. I need to share this with y'all. I think this would be really good for you guys to have, so maybe you can practice this too. But there's just the serious question of what's holding me back. Where am I going? So phase 1 was looking back based off of Luke 4. 3 questions was really like, where was I tested or trained? What formed me? And what do I know about God or myself in this space from what I've experienced? Doing that for all 4 spaces: mental, spiritual, financial, creative. This was really cool, and I actually have to credit ChatGPT with this. Because I used it to kind of format some things, but then it put words to this one, and I thought it was really dope. John 15:2, fruit, fire, and fallow. Pretty much like where Jesus says that every branch bears fruit, but every branch that does must get pruned to bear more. Taking every bit of this, realizing not every hard thing is bad, and not every good thing or easy thing is good. How that can intertwine, what that can do, where that's going. Where have I seen growth? In the form of what's fruitful, what has been fire, so what's been testing me, what was painful but purifying, kind of that space. And then where was there neglect or any stagnation on my part, in that fallow part of like, where did I kind of stay away from something that maybe I should have approached or went after, especially with my word being courage and going after my fears. That was a big one for me, of where have I been stagnant, and is fear what's guiding that? What does that look like? How can I break that down? Then, looking forward, when Jesus chose the 12 disciples, he withdrew all night to pray. And so that same mindset, that same ideal for me is, hey, let me withdraw now and let me pray and get serious about where am I going? What do I need to be prepping for? What am I headed into? Kind of the 3 questions for all 4 areas was, what is the Spirit highlighting? What vision needs birth in silence? And what does obedience look like now? I'm very big on get right now. Like, what do you need to do in the moment? What's the next practical, applicable step in this moment for you to jump into? And then Nazareth declaration, Luke 4:16 through 21. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to ... What is that for you? Where are you headed? That was a really practical and really cool one that I loved so much. After that, how can I get into daily rhythms? Things like that. When you look at Jesus, Mark chapter 6, he built before he preached. So there's just kind of that idea with him being a carpenter that, he had time beforehand, and then he was very, very specific and intentional on his time and his days and what he did. So same thing for me. What's a daily or weekly rhythm for all 4 of those areas? How can I emphasize that? Then finally, John 17:4, one of my favorites. I glorified you on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. It's one of my favorite verses for right now. For me, it's Jesus talking there, John 17. It's the final prayer. It's saying, hey, look, I want at the end of the day to look at God and God to say, well done. That's my mission. That's where I'm headed. Every day, how can I approach this day by viewing it as if tomorrow I'm looking God in the face? And I took advantage of today. It's not that I completed the task and I did it all in one day, but it's that I was effective today. And I've realized that when I get in a rhythm of that, I'm more honest. I'm more myself, because I'm not ashamed of what I did yesterday. I'm not ashamed of who I am right now. Some people, they have an identity crisis, and it's not because you don't know who you are. It's because you know who you are, but you're not living up to who you are. And there's 2 answers for that. Jesus is the first, and then once you've given your life to Jesus, it's following Jesus. Did I follow Jesus well today? Did I follow his example in a pure and great way? And that's what gets in people's way. You forget that your purpose, your call is to be with Christ, to be like Christ. So if your example is Him, go after Him. Chase Him today. Do what you can with what you have, and don't allow one bad day to rip you away from the 10 successful days you had before. You're not in an identity crisis. You just have to return to the one who wrote your identity in the first place. That's really what I have here. The last question on here was more for me, but I'll ask it. Am I carrying my cross or just building a brand? What does that look like for you? Am I truly carrying the cross, the burdens, the weight of this life Jesus has called me to live? Or am I doing this for the person next to me, for the person behind me, so that I can feel wanted, so that I can feel needed, so that I can feel better than really what I know I am? Because there's a place where you can be happy with who you are. There's a place where you can be glad, where you can be at peace, where you can be full of gladness and kindness and patience and joy. There is a resting place for that. But we must first give up who we are for Christ to show that to us. And so this reflection is a great example of that for me. I'm going to find a way to get this to you. If anybody has any ideas of a way for me to take this doc, put it into an ebook, maybe something like that, give it to you guys, let me know, DM me, I'll get it to you some way, somehow. Love you. Have a good week.